Now, in an attempt to find a solution to the persecution of the Rohingya minority in Myanmar, the UN's former Secretary-General Kofi Annan is set to visit government officials in Yangon. Kofi Annan has been recently appointed by the State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi to lead a commission to investigate a conflict between the country's Muslims and Buddhist communities. According to the United Nations, the Rohingyas are one of the most persecuted minorities in the world, and they suffer routine discrimination at the hands of the government. Well, let's get some more on this. Speak to Azeem Ibrahim. He's the author of a book on the Rohingya and joins us now live from Chicago. Azeem, good to speak to you this morning on TRTWORLD, or this evening for you now. Do you think this commission is a step in the right direction, given all the criticism that Aung San Suu Kyi has received over her lack of action over the situation with the Rohingya?
The setting up of this commission should be welcomed. It's an indication that the problem of the Rohingya is no longer a domestic problem within Myanmar itself, and it has actually been internationalised. And the timing is very interesting because Aung San Suu Kyi is expected to make a visit to the United States quite soon, where she's also due to speak at the General Assembly. And no matter what international trip she goes on, she's actually under considerable pressure to do something about the situation of the Rohingya. So this is a very welcome initiative. If it certainly results in the rights of the citizens of Myanmar getting their due rights, but it's not without its challenges. You know, I anticipate there'll be a number of challenges. First of all, there's already considerable domestic opposition against this initiative, particularly from two of the large parties, the Arakan National Party and the Union Solidarity Development Party. They've already spoken out against this commission. Will they eventually come round and recognise the commission and its findings? It's very early to say. Secondly, is the problem of the actual identity of the Rohingya and the nomenclature. You know, the Rohingya are simply not recognised as being from Myanmar, and years of persecution, they're simply identified as being Bengalis. What this commission does is gets around that problem by simply referring to them as Muslims of Rakhine. And then there's the issue of citizenship itself. You know, the Rohingya are the most persecuted minority in the world according to the United Nations. They all got stripped of their citizenship in 1982, and a Harvard study recently indicated that 1 in 8 stateless people around the world are now Rohingya people. So will they actually their citizenships be returned to them? Will they be recognised as full citizens of Myanmar? It's difficult to say because this commission actually has no power to enforce anything. They will simply make recommendations to the State Councillor, the head of state Aung San Suu Kyi, and it will be up to them to implement whatever they wish.
Okay, Azeem, and just quickly, if you would, what's been the reaction from the public in terms of this particular commission that's been set up, and where does this seemingly visceral hatred of the Rohingya come from in Myanmar?
Yeah, the public, many of the public are being very positive because this is not the first commission of its kind. At the same time, Aung San Suu Kyi have also started another initiative to end some of the civil war parties that have been undertaking civil war against the state of Myanmar for some time. But there's also there's a large element of Buddhist extremists in Myanmar who were greeted Kofi Annan at the airport, you know, shouting at him that there should be no foreign intervention, there should be no commission, you know, that he should be undertaking. The hatred of the Rohingya goes back a long way. It goes back to the Second World War, actually, when Burma was ruled by the British. And over years and years, you know, after military dictatorship, you know, the Rohingya have always been the choice, or the minority of choice of persecution. The military regime persecuted them and recognised them as foreigners. And since that time, you know, they've been stripped of their citizenships. Laws have been passed against them. They've been removed from their homes and put into concentration camps. So the hatred is very deep and inbuilt within Myanmar society, and to reverse that is going to take considerable effort.
And Azeem, then finally, as Myanmar starts to emerge from decades of sort of isolation, are we going to see a change? Obviously, these are incremental steps in trying to deal with the Rohingya. Do you sense that we could be moving in the direction of Rohingya becoming more accepted within society?
Well, I certainly hope so, but once again, this is going to be extremely difficult because the majority of people in Myanmar, first of all, they aren't aware, a lot of them aren't aware of the persecution of the Rohingya that's actually going on within their own country in the Rakhine district. when I visited Myanmar myself, I met a number of journalists, and they said there's actually more awareness outside the country than there is in the country, simply because after years of brutal military dictatorship, the media has been very heavily controlled. And secondly, the people that are aware of them, they all believe that they're illegal immigrants that came from Bangladesh back in the 1950s, which is patently untrue. And so they see them as immigrants that should literally just go back to Bangladesh. Whereas during my research, what I uncovered is that these people actually go back hundreds upon hundreds of years within the state of Myanmar, and I highlight a lot of that information in my book.
Okay, well, Azeem, Ibrahim, it's always good to speak to you. Thanks for joining us on TRT World.